35,000 feet. A strange hiss erupts from the left side of the airplane cabin, followed by a faint shudder no one notices, until the right engine sputters out and the sound of breathing vanishes from the cabin. In a flash, Pacific Sky's Boeing 737 plunges into weightlessness. Oxygen masks deploy, phones tumble, screams spread like fire through kindling. But at seat 14C, a woman in a faded hoodie doesn't scream, doesn't scramble. She stands, silently moving forward, as if she knew this would happen. The question is, how does a woman no one noticed, wearing no uniform, no name tag, possess an old military cockpit access code? And why do both pilots step back when they see her? Welcome to the true story of Flight 9118, where a female SEAL, presumed missing for 6 years, reappears in the skies above America. And in just 7 seconds, she seizes control of a dead-in-the-air plane. No one was warned. No one clapped. But they all survived. Because of a woman, the world forgot. All right, my dear audience. Brace for a story that'll leave you speechless. Take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly vibe with what I'm putting out here. And drop a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Always thrilling to see someone join us from all corners of the globe. Pacific Sky Flight 918 lifts off from Charlotte's runway in the late afternoon. The crowd boarding carries a medley of rhythms, the drag of suitcases, the chatter of children, the grumbling of the elderly, fragmented stories weaving between seats. Seat 14C sits between 2 nameless passengers, a place no one notices, no one expects anything from. And that's exactly where she sits. The woman wears a faded gray hoodie, sleeves rolled past her elbows, revealing skin weathered by elements, no longer soft as one might expect. Brandless jeans, worn-out boot heels, a loose zipper, no earphones, no books, no devices. In her hands, nothing but silence. Not a word. Not a wasted motion. She sits upright, eyes fixed on the scratched window, where afternoon light spills faintly across the glass. She doesn't reach for the overhead bin, doesn't need to check her seat number. Everything is mapped in her memory, like a familiar chart needing no update. She places a small backpack at her feet, fastens her seatbelt without a flight attendant's prompt. No fumbling, no rush, no drawing attention. She exists among them like a void, silent but steady. Flight attendants glide past, none lingering longer than necessary. They glance briefly, then move on. She's the kind of passenger they won't recall after the flight. Untroublesome, unremarkable, leaving no trace. But that's exactly what she wants. Beneath her quiet lies a tension taut as a wire. She isn't relaxing. She's listening, not with ears, but with instincts honed sharp. Every faint vibration under the floor, every shift in the wind's hum, every subtle signal from the engines, all registered and processed on a level of awareness that betrays no hint in her eyes or expression. Only deep, even breaths and the slightest tilt of her head, as if tuning to the pulse of a machine. She's known airplane cabins before, not from a passenger's seat, but from the controls. She's flown through combat zones without maps, landed without navigation systems. And now, she simply sits, on a commercial flight, as if all that were just data locked in a sealed archive. The man beside her doesn't notice. He shoves in earbuds, opens his phone, retreats into his own world. A child in front turns to peer at her through the seat gap, eyes wide but silent. Children sometimes sense what adults miss, a silence heavy with weight. She offers a faint smile, not for warmth, but to test a reaction. The child turns away. She doesn't think about the destination. Anchorage is just a point. What matters is the process. The way the plane counters headwinds, the way hydraulic valves adjust to shifting pressures. Each glide of the aircraft is a question she's answered before. No one on this plane knows that Seat 14C holds a veteran who once piloted machines most people never see. No one knows she's flown without runways. No one guesses that, if something goes wrong, she'll be the only one not panicking. She doesn't want it to happen, but she's used to living in the state of what if. It's a reflex her trained mind can't unlearn. Not because she's fearless, but because she's learned to act through fear. And acting, sometimes, begins with sitting still in a narrow seat amid a crowd, observing what no one else notices is happening. The plane hits 35,000 feet. The cabin settles after a light meal. Passengers begin to relax. No one notices the first thing to vanish, a sound. The left engine emits a faint pop, almost swallowed by the hum of the wind. Then, complete silence. No warning, no tremor, just absence. Some still laugh, some sleep. Even the crew hasn't noticed. But at 14C, she lifts her head. Her body tilts slightly. Her ears prick on instinct. She heard it. Less than 10 seconds later, the right engine falters. First a soft whine, then a stuttering, intermittent, broken, then nothing. The entire propulsion system vanishes. The sensation of weight drains from the body. The plane doesn't plummet but drifts, swaying like an unmoored object. The air in the cabin shifts instantly. The first to scream is a teenager, Seat 26F. A piercing sound, spreading like a spark. Oxygen masks drop, dangling like warning coils. Phones slip from hands. Food trays crash to the floor. One scream, then two, then dozens. She sits still. No shouting, no turning. Her left hand yanks the seatbelt, pulling until the buckle snaps with a click. Her right hand secures the oxygen mask, no fumbling. She lowers herself, chin near knees, basic survival posture. But her eyes stay open, alert. In her mind, a stream of data begins to scroll. Failure sequences, recovery odds, system limits. She counts, not time waiting, but variables, numbers that once saved her through mapless nights. The man beside her fumbles for his mask. She doesn't help, not out of indifference, but because she knows intervening now could disrupt the survival path. Instincts for self-preservation grip every reflex in the cabin. The crowd spirals. Children sob. A woman prays. Someone vomits. Someone faints. But she sits, eyes on no one, ears deaf to cries. She's listening for a vibration, a faint sound only those familiar with failing engines would catch, the silent feedback from a turbine shaft. She listens and knows this isn't a fleeting glitch. This is total failure. No thrust, no auxiliary power, no signal from the cockpit. She knows exactly what's happening and what's coming. It's time for reflexes to speak. Her hand reaches for the backpack strap at her feet, brushing a worn patch of fabric, not to retrieve anything, but to check the feel. The material holds firm. Nothing is out of reach. A long breath escapes, nearly inaudible. In it, acceptance. Not surrender, but activation. She isn't one to act at every crisis. She's the one who waits for the moment that can't be delayed. A child wails. Its mother stammers useless comforts. A faint beep pulses from a red flashing control panel. These sounds aren't separate anymore. They form a rhythm, an unstable one. She starts counting again, not with numbers, but with breaths. 1, 2, 3. Each inhale a step closer to action. She doesn't plan. The plan is already there. She's just stepping into its rhythm. And when that rhythm aligns, she'll leave her seat. Not to save anyone, but because she can't not act. As the passenger cabin descends into chaos, screams blend with children's cries, the clatter of shaking seats, and the violent jolts of the aircraft's frame. She doesn't react like the rest. No yelling, no flailing. She quietly unbuckles her seatbelt, then stands. Every move deliberate, no motion wasted, as if her body were trained to respond by instinct, needing no guidance. No one notices her movement at first. Amid the panic, a woman in a gray hoodie, plain jeans, isn't striking enough to draw eyes. But something in her walk, slow, precise, each step steady, begins to pull curious glances. A flight attendant, clinging to a seat for balance while trying to manage the crowd, raises a hand to stop her as she nears the front of the plane. No words of persuasion, no pleading tone. She simply pulls a small, worn, square card from her back pocket, holds it near the cockpit door's reader, and then she speaks 3 words, slowly, clearly. Argon 157. The attendant's eyes freeze. She blinks, as if unsure what she just heard. In the chaos, amid the groan of metal and the frantic flashing of lights, those 3 words sound like something from an old action flick. But no, it's not a fictional code. It's a military access code. Specifically, the high-level identifier of a retired SEAL. The attendant hesitates. Doubt mixes with fear. She glances at the cockpit door's panel, where red signals pulse like alarms. She's not allowed to open it. No crew member can in an emergency without clear orders from inside. But something, maybe the look in the woman's eyes, or the way she stays balanced amid the lurching, makes the attendant waver. She hesitates for seconds, long enough for the woman to notice, but instead of pressing, she just meets her gaze, eyes carrying no command, no plea, just certainty. As if she doesn't need to convince anyone, because this was settled long ago. The attendant's arm trembles as she raises her radio, eyes still locked on the woman's face. I have a passenger. She gave the code Argon 157. I need confirmation. Silence. Then a faint chirp from the radio, a single-tone beep, followed by a low, dry voice. No name, no rank. Let her in. The door's panel shifts from red to green in an instant. A click sounds as the electronic lock releases. The woman says nothing. She places her hand on the handle, feeling the metal's warmth, then gently pushes the door open. It swings wide, no fanfare. She steps into the cockpit, doesn't look back. The door shuts behind her with a firm thud, cutting her off completely from the world behind, a world of cries, fear, and questions no one can answer. In that moment, her pent-up emotions don't erupt. They're compressed, hidden behind her silent exterior, like cold forged steel tempered through thousands of flight hours, hundreds of nameless missions. This isn't her first time entering a chaotic cabin, and it may not be her last. Her hand hovers near the main control panel, not touching, just suspended, observing, scanning each gauge, each blinking light,
each distorted signal. Her eyes move in a rhythm carved deep from years past. Behind her, the two pilots, one middle-aged, one younger, turn to look. They haven't asked questions. They only see a stranger in a hoodie enter with a stride that permits no resistance. She tilts her head slightly, takes a deep breath, not to calm her mind, but to measure. Ahead lie irreversible decisions, but her body has already chosen for her. It moved, it acted, and now her heart must catch up. The cabin behind remains oblivious. But in the cockpit, Pacific Sky Flight 918 has just been placed in the hands of the only person still clear-headed as all hope free-falls with the fuselage. Dear audience, take a moment to relax, maybe grab a glass of water, and keep listening to this story. The twists are still to come. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see someone join us from all corners of the globe. Drop a 1 in the comments if you're hooked so we can keep bringing you more gripping stories. The cockpit door swings open like a crack in the wall between control and chaos. Both pilots turn almost simultaneously, their eyes wild with what they've just witnessed. A woman, no uniform, no special boarding pass, standing before them, eerily calm. The captain stammers an incomplete sentence. His lips barely form 3 words. She doesn't let him guess long. Her voice is soft, almost a whisper, but sharp enough to cut through the beeping alarms and flashing red screens. I've been in this kind of cockpit before. Mission in Yemen. The statement carries no pride or nostalgia. It's just a necessary confirmation, a signal she's no stranger to crisis. But what silences both pilots isn't the information she shares. It's how she delivers it. No ripple in her tone, no glance for permission. She doesn't enter with doubt. She steps in as if this station was always hers, merely forgotten for a time. She doesn't sit. She doesn't need to. Her fingers move with the fluency of a seasoned mechanic, light but deliberate. She flips the overhead panel cover, revealing rows of switches the crew only touches in simulator drills. Without waiting for orders, she disables the automated system manually, step by step, slicing through layers of default processor safeguards. Some warning lights go dark, others flicker, as if startled this intervention is happening in reality. The co-pilot glances at the captain, awaiting a reaction. But the captain stays silent, watching her work with a mix of fear and awe. His mind holds hundreds of training hours. None taught him how to handle a stranger stepping in to take temporary control. A stranger he can't categorize, can't read. She needs no map. Her eyes scan the gauges like reading a familiar poem. Voltage is still there, but the restart cycle is hung. She knows why. An old reflex drives her to the auxiliary circuit on the console's side, a place untouched except by top-tier technicians. She removes the cover, brushes her fingertips across 3 connectors, presses a sequence to interrupt, then restarts the auxiliary flow. The cockpit air grows thick, every movement weighed, measured. The co-pilot finally speaks, his voice barely his own. "What are you doing?" She doesn't answer immediately. Her hands keep moving, adjusting switches, checking power systems, verifying pressure feedback. When the console's hum returns steady, she turns slightly, softly. "I'm doing what you're not allowed to do, but I've done it. In fire zones, with wounded planes and no one on the ground." Her words silence both pilots. In aviation, every system is designed to block deep human intervention, for fear of error. But she isn't afraid of mistakes. To her, The real error is standing still, letting computers deny hope. The systems begin to respond. The screens flicker once more, then stabilize. Auxiliary power kicks in. One engine emits a faint rumble, like a first cough after choking. She still doesn't sit. Standing tall, eyes fixed on the fuel gauge, she waits for the numbers to sink back into rhythm. No one orders her. No one dares stop her. Something in her presence shifts the cockpit's air, like the gravity of an undeniable force. And then, as the engine's sound revives, faint like a heartbeat resuming after a pause, she nods. It's the signal, a beginning, and everyone starts to believe. She doesn't speak much, only requests a full shutdown of the electrical bus for exactly 7 seconds. Her voice isn't loud, not commanding, yet carries a strange weight that makes both pilots pause, their eyes trading shock and doubt. Shutting down the bus during a nosedive is suicide, but her gaze doesn't waver. No explanations, no panic, just the quiet presence of someone who's walked through places where survival isn't guaranteed. The captain grips the yoke, hesitating for a split second. His hand trembles slightly. Beside him, the co-pilot glances at the control screens, then at her, then at the altimeter. No one says it, but in their minds, time is collapsing. She stares at the digital clock on the central console, unblinking. 6 seconds. 5 seconds. The cockpit air grows heavy as lead. 7 seconds. The captain reaches out, flips the switch. Every screen goes black. For a moment, no electronics hum, no warning lights flash, no error buzzes sound. Only the rush of air scraping the fuselage, an empty howl, the primal instinct of steel torn from gravity. The cockpit becomes an isolated chamber, no longer the nerve center of a Boeing 737, but a sealed coffin suspended midair. The 8th second passes. She reaches forward, flips switches in a sequence no one could recall. No need for a manual. Her hands move with absolute precision, like a pianist playing the finale of a symphony only she remembers. The auxiliary system emits a faint screech. Then the backup engine roars to life, hoarse but alive. The main engine follows. A different sound erupts, like a stifled gasp, then a burst. The control screens flare back on. A row of green LEDs stretches across. The cabin shudders lightly. Hydraulic pressure climbs. The stabilizer kicks in. The entire aircraft responds, like a creature roused from hibernation. The co-pilot mutters, almost unaware, "God, it's back." But she doesn't turn. No faint smile, no acknowledgement. She just keeps monitoring the engine's rhythm. Outside the cockpit, screams persist, but they're fading. The free-fall sensation slows. The plane isn't drifting anymore. It's correcting course, returning to its path. She sits in the co-pilot's seat. Once again, her back presses against the chair, as if nothing happened. Her hand stays near the controls, not rushed, not tense, just utterly prepared. The captain finally finds his voice. He turns to her, his eyes no longer doubtful, only a mix of awe and fear. He doesn't ask her name, doesn't need to. Every instinct tells him she's no ordinary passenger. She's an extension of this aircraft, a part erased, now returned, and taking control not through force, but through precision and silence. She gestures lightly. "We need to contact ATC, request emergency landing. Long runway, light headwind, don't attempt a steep approach."
The co-pilot complies. The call goes out. No one at air traffic control asks who's speaking. They don't need to. In that voice, calm, low, unbroken, lies the signal they need to clear the way. She sits there still, back straight, eyes forward, hand never leaving the console. For a moment, the plane isn't just a machine. It's the embodiment of will, and she's its center. The cabin shakes one last time, then stabilizes. A quiet stability, uncelebrated. No applause, no music. Only the pulse of electronics returning to life, and 3 hearts in the cockpit slowing, not from relief, but from realizing they've crossed a survival threshold where she was the sole reason. The landing gear kisses anchorage's runway with a long screech and a gentle jolt, yet not a single passenger complains. Instead, an eerie silence blankets the cabin. No more screams, no more prayers, just the hush of those who've stepped back from the edge of life and death. The crew says nothing, only exchanging brief glances and silent nods. When the plane finally halts, the door opens. Cold air rushes in. Passengers disembark, one by one, as if each realizes they've been granted an unclear chance to start anew. Some glance back toward the cockpit, their eyes searching for a face never introduced at the flight's start. They don't see her. She doesn't stand there for flowers or praise. She remains in the cockpit until all have left. A quiet shadow, completing her task and slipping away without a trace. When she finally steps off the plane, she doesn't look around. Her eyes don't linger on anyone. Not out of coldness, but because she's learned to hold what matters and let go of what must pass. A few passengers recognize her as the woman from seat 14C. An elderly woman grasps her hand, speechless. A young boy points at her, eyes full of gratitude he doesn't yet understand. She only nods. A slight nod, standing in for all the answers they seek. She veers down a side path, not to the main terminal, not up the escalator, not through security. She vanishes from the crowd, as if she was never there. But everyone knows she was. No one doubts it. Outside the airport, the sky remains overcast. A black SUV waits at the curb, its windshield tinted reflective. 3 men in long coats stand beside it. No name tags, no smiles, no greetings. One of them speaks in a voice barely audible. "We just witnessed the return of the only SEAL ghost to survive Khe-Sanh 2. The statement isn't for exaggeration. It's fact. Those in the know understand. There was a mission erased from all records. Khe-Sanh 2. A failed operation. A team lost. No one returned. Except one. And now, that one just saved over 100 lives in America's skies. As she slides into the SUV, no one says more. The door shuts. The vehicle pulls onto the main road, blending into traffic without sirens or flashing lights. It departs as if no one should know it was ever there. And she, once again, exists in between, not of the world of war, nor of ordinary life. But what everyone knows, even those who don't fully grasp what happened, is that this wasn't a lucky flight. This was a flight preserved by someone who'd walked through death and returned. Not by miracles, but with her own hands and a rare calm amid a storm of crisis. This story won't make the news. There'll be no press conference, no medals exchanged, but those on Flight 918 will never forget. They saw something nameless, indefinable, a model of what was once called the ideal of service, not needing to be remembered, only knowing others get to live. Sometimes heroes don't need a stage. They just need a chance to do what's right, and then retreat, like a breeze, silent but unforgettable. If you're reading this far, this story has likely touched something in you. Maybe you've flown, felt fear, lost faith in people or in surviving a chaotic world. But remember, out there are still people like her. Not famous, not needing praise, but always ready to step up when everything falls apart. If this story resonates, subscribe to the channel to catch more inspiring tales. Drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and if you can, share this video with loved ones and friends in the US. It'd be amazing to hear where you're watching this from and what time it is, because maybe, just maybe, you're the next one who needs a reminder. There's always hope, always.